Hey guys, it's APK here, and on Thursday at midnight, I picked up my Xbox One and I haven't stopped playing it since. Today, I'm going to be highlighting two parts of the Xbox One. I'm going to be reviewing the Xbox One controller while using the Upload Studio app. I recorded, edited, and voiced over the footage using the Upload Studio app on the Xbox One, which is 100% free. So you'll get to see the kind of quality the Kinect camera and mic provides, the type of quality Upload Studio can render and upload at, and the basic potential of the app. Alright, let's get started. On the face of the 360 controller, I want you to take note of how big the face of the analog sticks are, the distance between the right analog stick and the ABXY face buttons, the very frustrating and inaccurate multi-directional D-pad inputs, and the location of the guide button. Now we're going to be looking at these same things on the Xbox One controller, which on a side note plays and feels much smaller than it looks. I want you to take notice of the smaller face on the analog sticks, the shortened distance between the face buttons and the right analog stick, the redesigned and much more accurate D-pad, and lastly the location of the guide button, which prevents accidental presses now. Now we're going to be taking a look at the triggers and bumpers of the 360 controller, and I want you to notice how the bumpers and triggers on this controller are completely separate entities with a small amount of space that separates them. This is going to be the part of the controller that has the biggest change. On the Xbox One controller, you'll notice that the buttons touch each other and flow ergonomically. I'll be breaking down the importance of this change later in the video, but on a side note, you get a glimpse of the play and charge wire input and the size of the battery compartment. Next is the mic input side of the controller. Here you see the mic port you are all familiar with, but one thing I want you to do is take note of the curvature of this side of the controller and compare it to the Xbox One controller's definition, which I'll be showing next. As many of you may know by now, the Xbox One controller has a new mic input, and here you get a glimpse of it. Most importantly, I want you to take note of the increased amount of definition on this side of the controller, which you will see becomes a common theme. The last part of the controllers we're going to be looking at is the back, and the main thing I want you guys to look at is again the curvature of the 360's grips on the back. Take note of the lack of definition on the back grips of the 360 controller and the general lack of a comfortable place to put your middle fingers. Now we'll take a look at the back grips on the Xbox One controller. You'll notice it juts out more where your palms grab the grips and has nooks near the top of the controller where your middle fingers can comfortably rest. These changes are what I believe make the Xbox One controller feel much more comfortable in your hands. I'm going to break down the differences between the two and how they affect your control. Here I'm going to highlight the shorter distance between the analog stick to the face buttons, which Microsoft said would allow for much quicker reactions and inputs, but I must admit the significance was overstated and the change was merely a small improvement, which is fine. A more significant improvement in my opinion would have been mechanical face buttons. Next, let's take a look at the triggers. On the 360 controller, note where I'm pressing the bumper and how I move my finger from one button to the other. On the Xbox One controller, using the same method in the same relative location on the bumpers requires a ton of effort to press. However, the intent is for gamers to grasp the trigger side of the Xbox One controller so that you utilize the ends of your index fingers for the trigger while using the middle parts to press the end of the bumper. This is actually a much more efficient way to use the two buttons, but will take a lot of playtime to get used to considering every controller since has conditioned us to use triggers and bumpers otherwise. Lastly, I'd like to address the grip of the controllers. When holding the 360 controller for whatever reason, it is slightly more difficult to accurately push the right analog stick up and to the right compared to the Xbox One controller. The more defined and deeper grips of the Xbox One controller, again, for whatever reason made it slightly more difficult to accurately push the right analog stick down, and found myself while playing shooters accidentally pushing to the left much harder than I ever intended to. This is a problem I never had with the 360 controller. Alright, that wraps it up for my review. Overall, I'd say the Xbox One controller is an improvement to the 360's version, and I'm sure some of the issues I have with the Xbox One controller are merely issues that take more playtime to remedy. That wraps it up for this review. Let me know what you thought of my review and also what you thought of the Upload Studio experiment. If you learned something from this video or found it interesting, I would appreciate if you gave this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I will have a Ghost multiplayer and Battlefield 4 multiplayer review up sometime this week, and potentially a Forza 5 review this upcoming weekend. Alright guys, this is APK, signing out.